request Dr. Satinath Sarangi to address the young minds.
Warm greetings from Bhopal. You all are law students, so I'll keep the part of my journey and all which was required to do for the Q&A session. In this, I'll speak about something that actually relates to all of you here and relates to law. I would like to speak about a particular kind of crime. This crime has everyone as a victim. Every person on this planet is a victim of this crime. All of you here are victims of this crime that I would like to talk about. Every single one. Some of us, because of their genetic disposition, could be more prone to be victims of this crime. But all of us are victims of this crime and the criminal acts that are being perpetrated on a regular basis. The interesting part about this crime and why I'm speaking to you about it. One, because I'm told that students here like challenges. So both as a challenge, I'm posing this, and also about something that you may not have paid so much attention to. Because the interesting part about this crime is that about 0.0001% of such crimes have been prosecuted, and about 0.00050% have been convicted. So what crime am I talking about that all of us are victims of, and almost no one gets convicted, and rarely the criminals get prosecuted? Going by the perpetrators of this crime, their identities, going by their modus operandi, MO, going by their motives, legal scholars have called this kind of crime corporate crime. So what is corporate crime? To start with, to give you an example, let me present the worst corporate crime in history. That is in Bhopal. The Bhopal gas disaster, more appropriately the Union Carbide gas disaster in Bhopal. So, you all know about it, and it was also introduced right in the introduction. She talked about it. What was it? It was a leakage of over 40 tons of methyl isocyanate, an extremely toxic chemical, over the city of Bhopal in the middle of midnight of 2nd, 3rd December 84. Over 25,000 people killed so far, more than 500,000 people exposed, over 200,000 still battling chronic illnesses today, almost 40 years later, and the next generation with growth retardation and birth defects, and an alarming rise of cancers, kidney diseases, and all kinds of stuff. This is almost nearly 4 decades after. And still, and if you go by, all of these, as you know, when I say crimes, these are basically the deaths, the illnesses, the abortion rates of women going up. All these, as you know, are categorized as crimes. Causing this are categorized as crimes. But what exactly is the crime here? The crime here is of, firstly, to set up a give a hazardous design, to design the plant itself. As you know, the factory was of pesticide. They used to manufacture pesticide. But look at how they have designed it. If you want to know whether there was a deliberateness about this design, you will find that everything about it is true. That yes, this factory in Bhopal was designed, deliberately under-designed. And how do we say that? We say that because we compare the design of the Bhopal factory with the design of the factory that was built in United States, in the state of West Virginia, in the town of Institute. I have been to that factory, I've seen that factory, and I work and live very close to the old factory in Bhopal. So what are the differences? There are 8 prominent differences in the design itself. First of all, construction material. The American plant, most of the construction material is stainless steel because methyl isocyanate is a highly reactive, corrosive chemical. In Bhopal, it was many places, it was mild steel. In the Institute West Virginia plant, you had an automated system, safety system. In Bhopal, it was a manual system. Very significantly, in the Institute plant, these were small tanks. They could only hold 10 tons at most. The Bhopal plant, as you know, was of more than 40 tons capacity. So, the coolant in Institute West Virginia is chloroform. Here it is brine, much more reactive in Bhopal. So every aspect you go there is a design difference between the Institute West Virginia plant and the Bhopal plant. I have gone through this design, we have it in our library. So at the end and right in the beginning, the team that did this design, they explain why they have made these decisions, why they have made these changes. And the changes have been made because they wanted to effect a 30% cost cutting. So to effectively save millions of dollars, knowingly, deliberately, the factory in Bhopal was under-designed. Second factor, maintain this hazardously designed factory located about 1.5 kilometers from the station was maintained in a hazardous manner. When there was a cost-cutting drive, the maintenance crew was cut down from 6 to 2. Similar thing in operations. Half the workers as part of the economy drive were told to go. So there was from 1200 odd workers, it was reduced to about 630 workers, which meant that the safety training time, which used to be 6 months, was reduced to just 15 days. So a fresh graduate comes to the factory, given 15 days of training and told to handle this equipment and plants that are holding extremely hazardous material. So what I'm saying is, all these were deliberate decisions taken by people sitting together, most probably in an air-conditioned room, and deciding this is what we do. All these cost-cutting in design, in maintenance, in operation, effective goal was to maximize profits. Now there is another crime which you may not even know that is ongoing in Bhopal, and that is the crime of poisoning of the underground aquifer. According to the reports of the Indian Institute of Toxicology Research, Lucknow of 2018, in 2018, radially from the factory, about 3.5 kilometers from the factory, is contaminated with, you should Google and know more about it, is what are called persistent organic pollutants. These pollutants, they retain their toxicity for hundreds of years, they accumulate in the body, they're bioaccumulative, and they cause cancers, reproductive health problems, mental health problems, and a whole range. So, and these are growing. because Union Carbide has knowingly dumped chemicals and industrial waste, hazardous waste, knowingly dumped inside and outside the factory, and these are leaching into the groundwater. So what has happened? What has happened to these crimes? What has happened to the people who commit these crimes? What has happened to, say, the person who was member of the managing committee that approved the hazardous design of the Bhopal plant? Fact is nothing. So nothing has been done against the accused persons who were identified to have played a role in causing the disaster in Bhopal. Absolutely nothing. 4 of the 9 accused have in fact died, unshackled, unpunished, never have they have had to even come to the court. Similar in the case of the contamination, there is, let alone prosecution, there has not even been an investigation into it. No one is being responsible. Laws of India, laws of USA have very clear on pollution and its consequences and who should be implicated. And it is polluter pays. But the polluter in this case hasn't paid a single penny, let alone pay. The polluter has not even been asked to pay. So you will say, okay, this is happening to Bhopal victims. This is happening to people in Bhopal, where among the survivors, half are Muslims, and among the half Hindu, 80% are low caste people. So you'll say, okay, these are, anyway, they're, what can I say, less than citizens. They're not really full citizens. Because half are, the minority and 80% are low caste. So maybe they are victimized because of their social political status. That's true. That's very much true. But the fact is, none of us can escape corporate crime. As you know, the 2 best instances is industrial pollution and climate change. Now, how serious is industrial pollution? Why are we all victims of this industrial pollution, climate change / corporate crime? There has been for a long time, the one big reason why most people have been oblivious of this crime is for a long time there has been no reckoning, no accounting, no assessment of what is pollution doing on a global scale. The first time this was done was in 2015, not very long back. And it was done by the Lancet Commission on Pollution and Health. I would request all of you to look up this commission's report. This report, for the first time, gathered data from all over the world on death and illness that could be attributed directly, not indirect. Indirect they already have. Directly as a result of industrial pollution. And I'll just give you some of the summary of this report. This report says that industrial pollution is among the top 5 causes of global death. That 16.6% of the people who died in 2015 died directly from industrial pollution. And like in everything else, Hamara Desh Mahan, India is number 1 in terms of consequence of pollution, deaths caused by pollution. 9 million people died worldwide in 2015. Out of these 9 million people, 2.5 million people in Indians died. You take any of the categories, under 5 children, in all categories, India is tops in terms of deaths and diseases caused by pollution. In exposure to get a sense of how massive this is, nearly 92% of pollution related deaths are occurring in low income and middle income countries. We are among on a global scale, we fare much worse. So much so that 1 out of 4 deaths in India can be directly attributed to industrial pollution, and maybe one more for climate change. So what we are talking of is a crime on a massive scale. And as you will see, just as in the case of Bhopal, where the hazardous design, the hazardous location, the hazardous maintenance and hazardous repair, all of these were directly connected to the motive. The motive is maximization of profits at all costs. And the motto is profits over people. So what I'm trying to say is, what we call industrial pollution is not something that is, like benign. It is as a result of deliberate decisions that have been taken by people in suits and AC rooms, and these are done without taking into recognizing what would be the consequence of their decisions. So what I pose to you as a challenge is to, because nothing has been done, is to understand more and more about the modus operandi and motive and the way these crimes are being committed by corporate entities for commercial gain, and how do you confront it? Because in the last, our 4-decade-long struggle has shown that this is one of the most difficult things to fight. So here is a challenge to all of you to see what can be done to understand, to cope with and to confront corporate crime.